Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Colleen Delaney and this is my classics book haul. So, super short background. I've read a lot of classics. I majored in literature in college, and when you do that, you read a ton of classics, or at least you did where I went to school. So there aren't a ton of classics that I'm interested in that I haven't already read, but there are some. So I went to the library yesterday and got as many as they had, which they were missing a couple, which I will try to find later at different branches of the library. But here's what I've got so far. These are just classics that I'm interested in. I don't necessarily know a ton about each of them, and some of them you might argue with me on whether or not are classics, but I believe they all are. The first is The Murder of the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I've read a few Agatha Christie books, probably just like 3 or 4, and I read Death on the Nile this year and very much enjoyed it. When I was like 15, I said to my dad, I think I want to read Murder on the Orient Express. And spoiler alert, if you don't know what happens in this, skip ahead like 20 seconds. And my dad said, Murder on the Orient Express. Oh yeah, that's the one where they're all the killer. So I didn't read it, but I have seen the movie and enjoyed it. And I do like an Agatha Christie novel to read every once in a while. So 2022, I'm coming for you, Murder on the Orient Express. I know it's like super wintry because of the snowstorm, so I might read it in like January or February. The next one is Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn, Waugh. And I feel like this is the strangest cover. It's like, I don't know, it's just a weird cover that my local library had. I'm trying to see when this, it was printed in 1973. So it was published in 1944, but this printing is from 1973, and that is kind of 70s looking. I don't know a ton about this, only that I have a vague memory of seeing a preview of this movie with, what's his name, Ben Whishaw? I don't remember his name. And whoever Agent Carter is, whatever her real name is. And I remember thinking, I'd like to see that movie. And then I never saw the movie. And then I thought, why don't I read the book instead? So this also is on my list of books to read in 2022. Next, I have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. And honestly, I can't remember if I've read this or not. Part of me thinks I have. Part of me thinks I read this in college. But I did read a lot in college, so sometimes I get a little confused about what I did and did not read. I don't have any of my books from college because I always sold them back because I didn't have money and I wanted money to do things like buy Christmas presents for people. So I do not remember. Oh, but now I'm looking at the first line. I think I maybe have read this. Well, we're going to find out because I'm going to read it again or read half of it again if I'm not enjoying it in 2020 and find out whether or not I actually did read this. We'll see. Stay tuned. Next is The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende. I'm sorry, I'm filming in a room that's like all windows, so the glare is so bad on these shiny covers. I again don't know a ton about this except that it's magical realism and it follows a family. I have never read anything by Isabel Allende, which is insane that I managed to major in literature and never read one of her books. But I think this is the one I would like the best, which is why I picked it. The first line is beautiful. And I always like a beautiful first line. And I think I'm going to really like this. So we'll see. I don't know when exactly I'll get to this in 2022, but maybe the first half of the year. Or maybe in the summer. I kind of like reading books that are like difficult in the summer. That's just how I am. If I'm gonna read like a lit fic or something, I usually want to read it in the summer. And then I've got The Quiet American by Greene. I don't know what this book is about, but The End of the Affair by Greene was one of my favorite books in college. It's a beautiful story of the end of an affair during World War II. That book just really resonated with me. I read it in my like modern British literature class, I think is what the class was called. And a lot of the books in that class I didn't really enjoy, but that book I just loved it. And then I went back to working at an independent bookstore and I remember just like hand selling that book to people like it was a new like it was like a new book and being like, oh, have you read The End of the Affair by Greene? Oh, so beautiful. Well, set in World War II. And a lot of people bought it and loved it. So I really want to read another book by him because I enjoyed that one so much and I've never read anything else he's written. So we're going to try The Quiet American and see what I think. It's also really short, which I love a short book. Next, I have North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I've seen the miniseries and loved it. She also wrote Wives and Daughters in Cranford. I've seen all these miniseries, but haven't read any of them. North and South is my favorite, which I figured I would start with reading that one because I loved it so much. Wow, there's like hundreds of pages of notes in the back of this. But yeah, I feel like she's, you know, the complement to Jane Austen. She's not as well known, but she has similar stories of the same time period. Let's see when this one was published. It was published in, oh, it was serialized in Household Words from 1854 to 1855. First published in 2 volumes in 1855. Good for her. Right, next I've got My Ántonia by Willa Cather. This is a book that a lot of people I know read in school, but I did not. I always thought it'd be a cool read. I'm from the Midwest, so I do enjoy like pioneer history. I don't know, I feel like if you grow up, depending on where you grow up regionally in the United States, there's like weird, oh, the sun's coming out. There's like weird, like local histories type things you get really into. Like we like really studied the pioneers. So I do like that pioneer sort of spirit and those stories. So I think I would like this a lot. I also think My Ántonia is a really pretty title. I've always thought it was like, it really struck with me. So I look forward to reading this. Again, it is a very short book, so it probably will not be hard to get through. All right, I've got The Wide Sargasso Sea by, who is that by? Rhys. This is one of the ones I'm not sure if people consider a classic, but I do. What does a classic even mean? Maybe I'll do a whole video on that. What does a classic mean? This was published in 1966. I feel like it can be a classic then. If we're gonna consider like Catcher in the Rye and Slaughterhouse-Five and stuff to be classics, we can consider this a classic. I know this is the story of Jane Eyre, but told by Rochester's first wife, who's the mad woman in the attic. Jane Eyre I've read 3 times for school, and the first time I read it, I loved it, and then the second time I thought it was fine, and then by the time I read it the 3rd time, I really didn't like the story anymore, probably because I was bored of it, and, you know, Rochester's not a great character, and Jane's kind of, but, you know, I think of it more as like, what an accomplishment it was for the Bronte sisters to be writing the stories they did at the time period that they did. But I've always heard that I would like this, because I like retellings, I like looking at a story that we all know so well from a different character's point of view. So I will definitely read this in 2022. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. A classic based on another classic. And my last one is another one that I don't know if people will consider a classic, because this one came out, I want to say in the 80s, maybe the 90s. Let's see. 92. So this one came out when I was 9, and it's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's like the dark academia book everybody talks about. I've never read this, and I've never read The Goldfinch or anything by Donna Tartt, and I feel like I would like this better. What I know of The Goldfinch, I don't know if I would necessarily like it very much. I've heard that this is kind of a frustrating read at points because it's a little bit dense. I'm just seeing that it begins with a quote from Nietzsche, which I don't know if that's a good sign. I minored in philosophy, so I have a lot of feelings about a lot of philosophers. And I feel like Nietzsche's a philosopher that when you read him for the first time, when you're like 20, you think he's like the most amazing person in the world. And then you read him when you're older and you're like, ugh. We'll see. This is also a very long book. It's not that bad. I thought it was like 700 pages. It's like 550. That's not terrible. But we'll see whether or not I get to it. The Secret History. I also have a copy of the Aeneid that I own, which I forgot to bring in, that I would really like to read this year. I love the Odyssey. I've read the Iliad. I've read the Odyssey like 4 times. Again, if you major in lit and you go to a school for high school that has you read a lot of classics, you are going to read some books more than once. So I read the Odyssey in 8th grade, and then I read it again as a freshman in high school. And then I read it freshman year of college, and then I read it senior year of college. But I like the Odyssey. I don't like the Iliad as much. I think it's fine. I've only read that one twice, I think, but I've never read the Aeneid. I own a beautiful copy that I wish I could show you right now, the Robert Fagles copy, but my kids are in that room and they're being very loud, so I don't want to go in there. I will definitely read that in 2022. So those are the classics, my classics haul from the library, and the ones I'm hoping I'll read in 2022. And I will let you know when we come to January, which ones I'm reading which month. What's your favorite classic? Have you read any of these? Do you like any of these? Should I take any of these off my list? Did you see my list and you were like, oh my God, don't read The Quiet American or something like that? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have a favorite classic and want to talk about it. My favorite classic is The End of the Affair, if you can count it as one. And other than that, it would be a toss-up. I don't know. A lot of them are good. A lot of them are not good. I should do a video about all the classics I dislike thoroughly. I'm looking at you. The Scarlet Letter and The Old Man and the Sea are both terrible. All right. See ya.